Uh, I'm here today with David Krajicek, CEO of JATO Dynamics. For those of you who don't know JATO already, JATO is a leading supplier of data and insights to the global automotive sector. And David, like so many of us now in this pandemic era, you're having to lead teams and manage an organization by remote control. Which is a challenge, I think, for all of us. Even more challenging for you is that you stepped into this CEO role just in the middle of March as widespread shelter in place and office closures were being implemented. First question is, what was going through your head that week that you realized that you weren't going to be able to see this team face to face and do a proper onboarding or a normal onboarding?
Yeah, it's quite an experience as you're playing back. Literally 48 hours before I was about to get on a plane, travel restrictions were put into place between the U.S. and global destinations. And as you can imagine, I had already started to game plan my 100-day plan. Had already thought about what I was going to tackle first. And as you know, a large part of that activity is connecting with both the leadership team as well as with your employees. And as you mentioned, previous roles have had me running large global organizations, and one of my key points is to be present, is to be in the markets, be close both to clients as well as to employees. And I had already started to plan out, map out my visits to the various countries and to the locations that we have in JATO. That was scuttled. So it was a bit of a backtrack to figure out how I effectively connected, how I was going to communicate, and how was I going to evaluate and work with my senior leadership team. You can certainly appreciate that some of the far-flung parts of the JATO team you might not get to right away, but at minimum we should be able to connect with the leadership team. So it was really trying to figure out how to do that. I think fortunately the other part of my 100-day plan was working on strategy. So I was able to create common purpose with that senior leadership team, but also provide opportunities to interact with them directly, see how they think, see how they attack problems. So while it's not ideal, that sense of creating purpose through the urgency of the new strategy is something that at least helped me initially move into the role and to start to dialogue, connect, and to create a sense of team with the leadership members.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, building trust, building those relationships in the first how many ever days is critical to the success of any leader, certainly for a CEO. How are you doing that via phone and via video chat like this one?
Yeah, that's a great question, and really four things that I've been focused on. First and foremost is taking time for the personal. Oftentimes you appreciate how much you address or deal on an interpersonal level on the side, whether it's getting a cup of coffee or walk into the car. You don't have that now. So you have to take and make time for brief conversations, either at the beginning or the end. Any hour-long meeting that I've scheduled now only goes 45 minutes. And if we've got 15 minutes where we can talk about other things that are going on either in the business or in personal life, we do that. So it's really kind of changing up. The second is don't pretend to be in the office. You're not in your office, right? This is not a situation where, if your kid comes in to pick up a printout or the dog barks or what have you. So roll with it, appreciate it. Don't ignore it. Don't try and make it the office. It's not. And I think having that type of freedom to relax a little bit because you are in a home environment is important. I think that the third is video is the norm, not the exception. I expect everybody to be video on, as I am, because it shows you're present and it shows that you're engaged. At least I can see you and you can see me. And I think the last is be visible and present on a consistent basis. So one of the things I started to do was on a weekly basis, just do a brief video. It's nothing fancy. I shoot it myself here in either my home office or somewhere location around, and we talk about specific issues, what my priorities are as the new leader, what we're doing in terms of updating on the new strategy, what kind of client engagements have I had, what kind of conversations that I've had. And I've scheduled meetings with employees across the organization to do virtual lunch and learns with them. So it's really about just staying visible and showing your presence to the JATO team.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned clients a second ago. You've got not only a global set of people on your team, but a very global lineup of clients, customers in the automotive industry. How are you changing your approach to them, or how are they wanting to interact differently with the organization?
Yeah, that has been one of the more interesting things. I can't claim credit for this. The one thing I will say is that JATO was really very well prepared for remote work. We had just moved and finished a migration to the cloud, so everybody had laptops, we had connectivity, we had systems in place, including video conferencing. So there really was no loss of fidelity with regards to our work. What was interesting was many of our clients that rely on our data and our information were calling us up for help. How do I get on? How do we get access? How do we set up remotely? So a lot of our early days interaction with our current clients was all about triaging and creating connectivity so they could use our solutions and our data from their home and from remote locations. I think the other thing that's interesting is that we find that clients are much more available for conversation now. I think that the fact that there are not a lot of necessarily a lot of meetings going on, there aren't as much distractions and activities, has allowed for greater interaction with a number of clients. I think, though, that one of the things that I've tried to make clear to my sales team is we want you to be well prepared, because while they're more available, they're asking more questions. They're looking for more insight and more direction, particularly because we're dealing with the unknown right now. And so it's really about not just get on a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call and chat. It's about be prepared to answer any questions they might have, understand where that account is. It sounds like sales and client servicing 101, but it really is up leveled because clients are expecting more from us. Just because they can't get to the data, they expect us to have information and insight. And I think lastly, we've seen a degree of informality among our clients, especially some of the more formal cultures that we deal with. The fact that they're at home kind of melts away some of that reserve. The fact that maybe they're not wearing a tie or a jacket is part of it, but I think also being in a home setting. So the dynamics have subtly shifted for the interactions that we've had from a formality perspective, but they've up-leveled from expectations about you being prepared to answer their questions. They don't care if you're home. If they're home, they want you to still answer their question from your home. So
I'm sure that for you leads to a very interesting set of 24/7 dynamics and managing time zones. Though it's interesting, I've asked other of our clients the same question. Given now the daily reliance on tech platforms for internal communications, for engagement with your customers, is that changing your thinking about technology and digital transformation in your products and in other parts of your operations?
Yeah, it is. I mean, clearly part of my onboarding into JATO was to really drive digital transformation and really create the next generation of digital products and solutions for our clients. I think what I'm recognizing is that while we may have had a little bit of lead time, that lead time is slowly closing, or actually more rapidly closing, as expectations from our clients shift. So yes, we could answer questions, but I'm beginning to see the demand for more on-the-go access to our information sources more readily available. So we don't have to be answering questions. They can access it from their tablet or from their mobile phone, not just from their devices. So absolutely, I see us less in terms of the usability, because UX has been a big focus of ours. It's really about accessibility and driving transformation, make it readily available, make it easier to digest, make it easier to integrate into clients. It's certainly something that we'll be looking at to accelerate, because I do think that is a shifting expectation that we're seeing from the market. And I can see we can do it. We just have to be very disciplined and focused to execute against them.
And I know this is still early days for you personally in this situation, but what do you think this remote management has revealed to you about your own leadership style, and how's it changed you as a manager?
Yeah, this is one that I've been reflecting on the weekends, when I at least have a little bit of downtime to sit and think. First of all, one of the things that I've realized is it's absolutely critical and important, and I've tried to abide by this as a management philosophy and rule, but I remind myself how critical it is when you're not present in person to do it, and that is say what you mean and mean what you say, especially when you're talking to a diverse, multicultural, multi-country employee base. It's absolutely critical that you are clear, you're concise, and you're repetitive, right? And repetitive in that you continue to hammer home a specific message, because you're doing it via not an indirect, but a not in-person communication message.
Yeah. And which of those, maybe all of them, do you think you'll carry forward in your approach, in your style, when the fog of the coronavirus finally lifts and there's some new normal for us that hopefully has us back together in teams and face to face?
Yeah, it's interesting. I just before we got on, I was finishing with a client, and then I post a video to my Microsoft Teams channel that, as I was mentioning before, just a quick 3 to 4 minute video on issues or topics of the week. And one of the questions, and I invite people to put questions in there, and oftentimes I'll tackle those questions. One of the questions was, well, when this lifts and you join in the office, you're still going to do the videos. And I think that they strike a chord, because I think people appreciate that, whether or not they're in the office or not, that you're visible, that you're speaking to specific priorities or initiatives. Then it's an interaction that they may or may not get, even when they run by you in the hall or picking up coffee. So I think that part of what I continue to focus on, or will focus on, is that regular communication, because it's going to be just as important to everybody in the broader network. I think also the idea of really active listening and trying to understand and appreciate where others are, because the reality is, who knows what happens going forward with regards to traveling to other offices in other countries. So part of what I will continue to do is have those listening tours, the virtual lunch and learns, making sure that I'm actively listening and engaging with the teams. So much the better if I can augment that with personal visits. But I think that I built up a sense of who I am to the team through this channel, and it gives me a very powerful medium to continue. In some respects, I probably date myself. It's like the old anchorwomen of the day, right? Where you came into the household every night and you were part of the family. I've become part of the JATO team because I'm actively engaged in coming in on the JATO channel every night.
Well, David, thank you. I think of crisis is born opportunity, and certainly I think for leaders and CEOs is born character, and I look forward to tracking your success in the weeks and months ahead. And thank you for spending this time with us, and best of luck.
Great. Thank you, Jay, and thank you to your team. It's been fantastic talking to you today.
Great. Take care.